All right. So when you do first get started, just know that when you get started anywhere, especially if you're going to be doing beats, any type of beats, uh, try and talk to the person who did the whatever it is you're doing, be it geographic, conceptual, or thematic beats wise. Get if you have a chance to talk to the person who did it before you, talk to them. What are they looking for? What goes on there? Who should I talk to? So they're the one who's been following all this, and so they would have a good idea because they're the one who's been covering this. What are the big stories coming up? They're going to know that. They have a good pulse on what's going on around the area, what they've been covering. So that's always important. You have a big part of this is getting your sources, and a monster part of that is talking to the people who covered it before you did. And also stories that need following up. How many stories you're going to be doing? Sometimes stories they just seem to build on other stories, or something hasn't been answered quite yet, but you're still following. You're still creating and producing other stories. But you always have to keep in the back of your mind or written down somewhere or whatever, however your mind works and how you remember things. Talk to them. What are some things that need to be followed up on? Because they're the ones who've been covering this. And now you're the person that's going to need needing to just jump into the pool. Just jump into the pool, wash yourself within it, become completely enveloped by it, and that's going to be your life for the next however long you're supposed to be doing that. And the only way you can do that is by completely, diving in and just becoming all about that. And things that, and then also ask the predecessor, what were you hoping to do? What was the next thing you never got to do? But you think is a good story. You just between scheduling and other stories and things that didn't go the right way. What are the things that you wish you got to? And that's going to happen. Because there's only certain. Plus, you remember it's only a certain amount of hours in a day, a certain amount of time to get each of your stories done. Um, and even if you're doing all your due diligence, if you're doing a good job and doing the whole beat reporter and following through with all the steps that you're supposed to be doing and thinking with an open mind and always looking and paying attention and doing those things to build upon stories. There's going to be things that pop up that I never got to this or I never got to that story. Listen to your predecessor. Any things problems on the beat. Sometimes there's certain things that you're going to be doing over in meetings, certain times that might be a problem in something with the meeting, or maybe they're always late, or maybe when you're dealing with someone, some people are, yeah, that's part of their job when you're covering them, but they might not be that friendly. They're not that easy to work with. That this is the time when you're dealing with this question, because remember, we're people. You're dealing with people, and you have to get used to dealing with people because they have a job and you have a job. And sometimes they're not easy to work with. Maybe there's some aspect of covering a certain area. If you're covering a certain area, maybe you don't want to be. If you're in a certain area, you don't want to be at a place past a certain time where you could get hurt. Something it might not be the greatest area. So that's something you have to pay attention to. Maybe there's some person out there that they know of. Stay away from this person. They're not, though they might portray themselves as being a good source. They're really not. And then that leads to who are the good sources? Who are the people that that you can work with, that you can talk to, and know when you. It depends. Say you're at City Hall and you might know someone who works for the mayor, or even someone who's just kind of there, and they're good with talking to you about certain sources. But that comes with time, and you build trust with people. So it's who's good to talk to about certain things. these are all things, or these are all things that you're asking the person that did before you. And then where should I spend the bulk of my time? Where is there a lot of good stories? Where do you find you yourself? Where you wind up being a lot of the time when you're getting some really good stories. You learn a lot about from the people who were doing it before, especially something like this, especially if you're new and you've never done that. Now that you might be lucky from the standpoint where the person that was doing this beat just got transferred over or wanted to go to a different part of that media outlet. So they're readily available right there for you. Yeah, they're going to be busy. Remember that. They're going to have work to do too. They're going to be busy too. But at least they would be right there. Maybe they wind up just leaving and going to a different job or just retire or something like that. So that'll make things harder. But before they leave, or if they're there, ask them these things because they're the person that's been doing this the whole time, and because they've been hopefully been doing it right, they've dove in, and that's been their life, and they know it upside down, left, and sideways, and now it's your job to know it upside down, left, and sideways. Other aspects of what you should do when you're getting started. Read or sometimes watch the station. You can get a good idea. Look at their archives. How have they covered things? What have they covered? Where have they taken it? How far have they taken? Many other stories might have come from certain coverage of certain things. And that goes with if you're at a television station as well. Pay attention to the archives. Especially now, it's easier now than ever from a standpoint of the computer. And when you're there, you're going to have an endless archive. You're working there of video and scripts, and from that standpoint, and then I'm sure you'll have stuff in when you're a newspaper. Once again, they'll probably have video, and they'll have articles, and it's going to be that venue. It's going to be that newspaper. It's going to be that television station. So you're going to have access to all that. It's your job, okay, when you first get started. Once again, you're going to dive into it. Is a lot of work? Yeah. It's not all glory. I mean, if you're a good journalist, it's not a whole lot of time. It's not about glory. It's just doing a good job telling a story and stories that matter and have impact upon the people that are your audience. And part of that is you doing your homework. Yeah, homework doesn't end when you graduate. It just gets started. You've just gotten started, and then you're gonna, believe it or not, when you get out there, you're gonna be having even more quote unquote homework a lot of the time when you're doing this. So you're gonna hope back. Oh, remember when I was doing those assignments and I hated them when college and high school? Well, you're gonna have a whole other level when you're doing this. Also, talk to your boss when you first get started, for whatever you do. What kind of breakdown of work am I going to be expected to do? Is it going to be a lot of meetings? Is it going to be a beat? And in that beat, what are some of the things that you would prefer me to be covering? How should I be covering it? What's the best way should I approach this? From what you've seen, what you want me to do, and what you think best serves. See, a good way to do this is not only to ask what they think of personally, but would best serve our viewers, our readers, whatever. Because then you're showing that you care about that audience, you care about that, and they're going to be more open about that. So, where do you expect me to what are your expectations of me and how I cover things? What are the typical turnarounds, development of a story? And you're going to get different answers each time. But it's important to talk to your boss and sit down with them, and especially when you first get started, because then you have a good idea, and then it shows that they want that you care about doing a good job, and then that gives them hope that you're really taking this seriously. You want to be a good member of the team, and they'll be more willing to work with you. Remember, do it in a professional manner. Always do it in a professional manner, because you want let them know I want to do the best job I can here, and how do I, what's your advice for me, and how I handle things, and they'll take time. At least good bosses will. Um, so, all right, all right, all right. How do you build your beat? All right. One of the first things that you do, yes, you're gonna be on the phone a bit, and you're gonna be making emails, but that's just a very, very small percentage of it. I can't tell you how many times assignment editors who are looking for stories at the TV station, they'd be on the phone. Hey, the whole City Hall, is there any news there today? Is there anything there we should be part of or know about? And most of the time it's no. Sometimes, hey, yeah, we got something. That is such a small percentage of it. Um, so yeah, that's usually some of the biggest mistakes when you first get in there. Um, yeah, you can do your introductory emails and stuff like that, but there's something to be said about talking to people. But this goes back to changing communication. My two C words that are important. Well, here's the communication part. Make yourself known. Put yourself out there. Get out of your comfort zone. Hey, if you would have told me when I was a kid that I'd be going out there and interviewing these people and talking and being in front of a class and talking with you, I see you're insane. You're absolutely insane. And I had to force myself. I got into the industry and I had to go out and interview people um, and so it was, you have to really get out of your comfort zone. Oh, but I don't like them. Like, then maybe you don't want to be a journalist because you have to be willing to go out there and talk to people you've never talked to, don't know at all, and you have to find in yourself to be able to just sometimes go up cold and talk to someone. And so it's because remember you're going to be going to cover these places and covering these events, and where you're going to get information from people, right? And you're going to be seeing these people quite a bit. So that goes into building sources as well. It's when you're doing that, when you're talking to these people, you're going to be building sources, and you're also going to be understanding that you're going to be building relationships, and you're going to see these people time and again and time and again. You're going to be getting more information, and as you navigate your job, you're going to start learning where, not only from personal relationships, but certain databases or places or websites or wherever, whatever the case may be, or where you have to go for certain pieces of information that are specific to that area, or for certain things. That comes with time, and that's where you start to really build your sources, and that's where you get all these stories, and how to build stories, because you need to know who is dependable, who is not, what is dependable, what is not, how that works, and it comes with time, trust, and building trust with some of these people that you're working with, and but it comes with time, and but they know not every reporter is at a place forever. They people go from one thing to another quite a bit, but it still means that you don't have the same trust that previous person had with these sources. So you have to build it on your own, and hope that the person partially hope that the person that was doing your job before was trustworthy. So that will make your job easier. If they were a good journalist and they built those sources, it'll be easier. I'm not saying it's going to be super easy, but it'll be easier. And if the person wasn't, then it'll probably be a little bit harder. But then if you're a good journalist and you're good, trustworthy, then you have to build that upon yourself and do it in your own way. But that's part of getting the stories, getting those sources, maintaining those relationships. And remember, a lot of times these sources, people in these places, they have a whole bunch of people that are also reporters at different venues of different formats. So they're dealing with them, they're dealing with you, and it's going to take time to build that trust, but that's upon you and how well you do it. Also, gathering documents. It's, once again, research. And these documents are going to be important, be actual the actual documents or electronic documents that you're going to be getting to, because you're a journalist, and these are the things that give you the proof of what other people are, what they're saying is true or is untrue. This is doing your work, is trying to find out, because people are going to say a whole lot of things to you and give you information, and it might be right and it might not be right, but it's your responsibility to check up on that. And they're going to be getting lots of information, lots of stats, lots of things that are going out from many different things. And by you gathering all this information, it's important to do your homework. Once again, more homework. Why? Because you have to know what you're talking about, and you need the proof either way, either to confirm what these people are saying, or maybe it's inconsistent, and then that's your responsibility to say, hey, you said this, but in this document, in this, that directly relates to what you said, it wasn't quite right. What's your reaction to that? Because that's what a good journalist does. So that's all part of it. All of this has to do with building stories. So you have to pay attention to all that. Okay, here are 3 big tips for succeeding on a beat. Okay, first one: don't diss. Don't diss the desk jockeys. Support staffers know their stuff. All right, don't get all high and mighty because, I'm a journalist and I know this, that, and the other thing. You should always remain humble, confident, but humble. Okay, confident, and realize that these people that are doing these jobs, such as secretaries or desk people at police stations, or people who have jobs of this nature in other organizations, they are basically the lifeblood of those organizations. They could be somebody's assistant. They know what's going on. They're on the inner. They're the inner circle. A lot of times, these people are the ones who are actually running. Without them, things would come to a screeching halt, and they tend to know a heck of a lot more about what's going on. Okay, so do not disrespect them. Don't think you're gonna make a massive mistake if you look down towards these people, like even custodians. They know what's going on before anybody else does. So anybody and everybody can be a huge, massive source of inner workings of what's going on in a place, and they are lots of times the people who are running these places behind the scenes. So it's making sure you're paying attention to who these people are and the importance of the role they play, because they know exactly. They have their finger on the pulse of everything. So these are some of the biggest sources that you get some real inside information on that you wouldn't normally think. So be nice, because you're a human being. Don't think so highly of yourself. Well, I'm a reporter. Well, yeah, you're a reporter. You're supposed to be humble. Tell the story. That you're gonna get a heck of a lot more from people who are in positions like this than you would ever realize. Lots of times, other people regard these people. You have a good relationship with them, you'll get so much more information from them. Get close, but not too close. Okay. Yes, you're going to have good, close relationships with these, because you're going to constantly working with these people, seeing them time and again as you're building these relationships with your sources, and have a friendly relationship. But remember, you're not friends. So that means sometimes if something affects them personally and it's something that needs to still get out, you got to remember, you're friendly with them. It's not personal, but you're not their friend. You're friendly, you're cordial, you're a decent human being, but you're not friends. And there's certain bits of information you have to put a line there. There always has to be a line that you don't get too close with them, because then that takes away from stories that need to be told. It kind of goes into conflict of interest as well, if you think about it from a certain point of view. So you're going to be friendly. You're going to get it's hard. It's hard to figure out, because you are dealing with them all the time. You are friendly with them, and you get along with them. And you have to remember, you still have a job you have to do, and you've got to get that story out, and do it in a professional manner. It's because it's not personal. Um, and then let someone know if you are burned out. This industry, this race will wear on you, especially if you're in a beat and you're doing the same thing over and over and over and over again. You're getting so deep in all these things. It gets to a point where it's just you can't take it anymore. It's time to move on. And we talked about, well, the person that you're supposed to talk to, the previous person who was on your beat, that might have happened to them too. It can wear on you. Some people can keep doing it forever. Sometimes it's only a certain amount of time. Once you feel, I can't do this anymore. We're not talking 2 or 3 months. It could be years. Honestly, it could be. But it's it can wear on you, and it might be time for that change. So it's this industry can wear on you. You're going at a breakneck speed, and you're doing things and rushing here, rushing there, getting things done. And it's not normal. Plus, you're doing a lot of things during times that most people aren't working, and working holidays, and working all these other times. And when you're doing that beat, it like anything, it can just wear on you, and it's time to possibly go to another part of to cover something else to get away from all that. And it happens, and if they're a good outlet, they'll say, yeah, after a while you want to change. They know because they've been through it too. How to refresh beat reporting. Always keep in contact with your stories. Now, what's that mean? Every time you're working on a story, you want to stay in touch with them. It's not just, oh, I'm done with them, I don't need them anymore. Because especially if what you did might have had some sort of positive impact, or there's something happened, and because of you did that story, and you don't want to necessarily forget it. It's like, say you helped a housing project or something that had some issues with bad service, or it was turning into a real not nice place to live, and because of your reporting, they were forced to change it up. Okay, and they might have had their day in court or whatever the case may have been, and they're ordered to change certain things. Go back and check like 3-4 months, and pay attention to what the rule was and how long they had to take care of it. And because if they didn't take care of it, there's another story into itself. Plus, these are people, you're trying to help them, but you're still helping them, because lots of times stories just kind of like fade away. People forget about them because they're on to the next story. And it's important to keep in contact with these people, because they could have new stories for you, other layers to it, new stories from the old stories. And a lot of times you're dealing with a lot of the same people. They have lots of things to tell you. It tells you lots of, they have usually on the pulse of a lot of different things. And when you're on a beat, it's depending on the type of beat you're going to be covering. It's going to determine how often you should go and talk to certain sources. Sometimes you may check back with them once or twice in a single day. Maybe it's every couple weeks you might go and check back with them. It could be checking back on what the stories there. And as I said before, revisiting older stories, making sure things are as the way they're supposed to be. People are doing what they're supposed to be doing. There's new stories with that. And then connecting the dots. A lot of people don't seem to like to connect the dots these days. They just go on, do their story, and that's it. And that's for a lot of different reasons, but it's being able, it goes back to paying attention. And how does one thing lead to another, lead to another, lead to another? So when you're connecting the dots, you're creating the picture of the story, and that's the whole point. As you're in a place and working a certain beat, you start to see things more broadly. You start seeing those little things, the day in, day out of how things are working. Um, but from that, you can get even like smaller stories because there's big stories and there's smaller stories. Your job is to ferret out and dig out all types of stories, and it's that's making sure you're paying attention. And so you might notice certain things that are happening. Say you're in the book, it tells about being an education reporter, and during your time there, you're noticing certain school district that over a few years or so, that there's lots of retirements, and you have all these younger people coming in. But when these younger people coming in, they're they start and then they're not there for all that long. Why is that? What's wrong? What's going on? Especially something with teaching in that case. You try to get a job, you try to stay there for as long as you can, and build tenure and all that kind of stuff. And there's a bigger story there. There's probably possibly a bigger story there. So you have to like, hey, what's going on? This is weird. Or this is strange. And why is this happening? And it's your job to ask the question once again. Why? Connect the dots to bring in that bigger picture.